What's up? Well, I'll be damned if it's already that time of the week. My homies, let me spill you some real ass tea. This is another episode of the Foreigner Podcast, and I'm gonna drop you some infos on different aspects that would matter if you went abroad. It's really dank of you to tune in. Slit fam, thanks mate. If you are confused now, that is great. I used some heavy American slang in my introduction, and as a part of today's episode, I'll explain these terms I used. But I mean, since I can't fill an entire episode with that, this episode will kind of be in a similar way to the first episode of the Foreigner Podcast. While collecting ideas for this episode, I had multiple smaller ideas, and I think it would be kind of interesting to take all of these small ideas together, or some of them that I had, and fill a 30 minutes episode. That's why I decided to put those small topics in one episode. Now that I have explained this episode's format to you, I just want to remind you to, do the likey thing and the shary thing. Just help me to grow and help me reach more people with my education on just the whole exchange student thing and going abroad, other cultures, different cultures, internationalism, interculturalism. That's really important to me, and I just want to thank you if you already did that and ask you to please help me with that if you didn't already. Now, after the ad segment, I can't talk, I want to explain the slang from the start of the episode. So this is gonna be a
Slang review.
So what I basically said is, what's up? Well, I'll be damned. That was the first thing. And that's I can't believe, or is it really? It's like questioning the about to be stated thing. And I said, well, I'll be damned, or I can't believe, or is it really already that time of the week? My homies, that just means good friends, lemme spill you some real ass tea. Lemma is just a short form for let me, and spill tea is telling the truth, or T just stands for truth. That's more of a gay culture thing to use, and to use as an adjective, like real ass tea, ass with the double S, the naughty ass, then that means very or a lot. And then I said, this is another episode of the Foreigner Podcast, and I'm a drop, which means give, you some infos on different aspects that would matter to you if you went abroad. It is really dank, which is meme language for great or awesome, of you to tune in. And then I said, it is lit, which again is a form of great or good or awesome, but it's not special for the meme culture. It's a thing that was. It's not that new anymore, said just in everyday language. I said, it is lit, fam, thanks mate. Fam means, it's a short form for family, so it's like a really good friend that could almost be a family member. And that was it already for the slang review today. I'm not sure if I'll do more of these, because there's just so much slang in the American language, but if I decide that I found some good slang that could be useful, or if slang changes over time, because it changes pretty frequently, then I might do another one in a long time, I think. It's gonna be a long time until there's another slang review, so I hope you enjoyed this one. If not, well, that's fine as well. Now, the rest of the structure for this episode is as following. First, I'll explain sports in the USA. Then I'll talk about the role of music and podcasts for my exchange. I'll explain the role of architecture, fine arts, and aesthetics, as I like to call it, for my exchange. And then, of course, quote of the day and item of the day. And that seems like quite a lot, so let's no longer wait and get right to it. As I said, first I want to say something about sports in the USA explained. Well, first of all, sports is very important at American schools. That's like a really important thing to say. So keep that back, in the back of your mind. Keep that in your conscience as I will go on, because it depends on what country you're from, but if you're from Germany, this is gonna sound like really strange to you, but just keep in mind that they take it very seriously in the US. And that already shows because the schools have own stadiums and playing fields for all of their sports. I'm not sure if I recall the right number all the time, but we had one stadium football field, so it was a big football field, American football field. Next to it, we had 2 training fields, so that would already make 2 big football fields and 2 small training football fields. Around the big football field, there was a track for running and jumping and all of that stuff. Then we had 3 soccer fields and I think 2 or 3 baseball fields. And those just for this one school. And then, of course, we had multiple sports. What are they called? They're indoor sports halls. We call them sports halls in Germany. I think I forgot the name for it. Like gym. Yeah, kind of like a gym. But there are no like weights because we also had a weightlifting room and there were multiple dance studios and all of that stuff. So there was a lot of equipment for the different sports. What I did, I was playing soccer for the fall season. About the seasons, I'll talk about that later. But I just want to say that right now because it didn't really fit anywhere else and I just wanted to tell you that so you know that I have at least some background in the sports, as I already said that I was more a theater kid. But also, since they have stadiums and own play fields and sports very important in the US, schools and universities have leagues in the USA. So there are multiple leagues for schools. They are divided by size of the school, and universities too. They are, I think, also. I think they should also be differentiated by size of the school. So a small university with like 2,000 students will not compete against against California State or some big university like that. But yeah, so they have leagues where schools will play each other. So that's the equivalent to like leagues in Germany for like soccer, where the league is of some villages that are somewhere in nowhere, and village A plays village B and C and D, and the villages have separate teams. There it is schools. So school from town 1 will be in the league with other schools from towns B to C. That means the last letter of the alphabet. So in American C and in Britain Z. Okay, but that being said, sports are often reasons for scholarships to universities. So universities will send scouts to the high schools to look at players, and if they're really good, they will give them scholarships for the immense university tuition. So they would come to that university and play there, and for that not have to pay more. And now, no, pay more. Play more, yes, but not pay more. So they'll play more, but they won't pay more. Ha! And now to what I already said, or kind of teased, the 3 seasons of sports. So there's fall season, there's winter season, and there's spring season. And depending on what gender you are, so male or female sports, you will have it in a different in a different time of the year. Oh right, I forgot about the I think 6 or 8 tennis fields we have, because I want to use tennis as an example, because the female tennis was in fall, which is autumn, and the male tennis was in spring, because of course we couldn't share the fields at once, and when the girls were doing tennis, we were doing soccer, and that changed. But I think soccer, the women team or the girls team played soccer at the same time as we did, so I don't know what we did that they didn't do. And yeah, softball and baseball were also at the same time. So sometimes it's changed, sometimes it's not. But that's just the thing. I think depends on the league and where you live. Because when we played soccer in fall, because that was the time that playing soccer was able from like going outside and not freezing to death like you would in Minnesota. A friend of mine who was stationed in San Francisco as an exchange student, they played soccer in January and February because it was the only time that they could go out and do physical sport without dying of dehydration after 10 minutes because it was just that hot. So depending on that and where you live and what your leagues are, you will have different sports in different seasons. As I said, there are many sports. Like there's tennis, there's soccer, there's lacrosse, there's baseball, there's softball for the females, there's track, there's just running. Then in the winter, of course, in Minnesota where it actually does snow, we had Nordic skiing and we had ice skating, figure skating, ice hockey, all of that stuff. So there were a lot of sports to choose, even like golf or disc golfing. So there was a disc golfing team at our school, which is pretty weird sport, I must say. I played it like once, and I mean, I can see the appeal of it, but it's not a thing we would do in Germany. But I think in Germany, there's too much wind for that. Okay, now back to the structure of American school sports. They're also different. Since they're different leagues, there are different smaller leagues divided by age and skill. So there's a varsity team. That's always the best team in a sport. That's usually 12th and 11th graders. So if you're a 12th grader and you do not make varsity or junior varsity, you will not be able to be in that sport. Like in soccer, we had people who were 12th graders try out for the soccer team and they did not make junior varsity or varsity, so they weren't able to play. But as I said, varsity, that's the top team. That's usually for 12th graders. Then there's junior varsity, also called JV, and that's usually 11th graders. Then there's 10B and 9A, and I mean, that is pretty self-explanatory. 10B is for 10th graders and 9A is for 9th graders. And now there are training and game days. Training games, you stay after school for practice. Game day, you hop on a bus and drive somewhere to play. We had 3 days of training and 3 days that were game days. So we would play on, I think, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we would practice at the school. Yes, I said Saturdays. We would play almost every Saturday. But we just had to go to the school, and they would send a bus to bring us to the other school. And that included drives for over half an hour sometime to get to a school that was on the other side of our district and still in our league. Then there were dress-up days. That is always if you had a game day and you wanted to get people to come to your game, you would dress up nicely. So wear a nice button shirt, wear maybe a tie or a bow tie and something like that, just to look fancy. So people would be like, "Hey, why do you look so fancy today?" And you could say, "My soccer team has a game today. Come see it." So that's basically the whole appeal of it. You want people to ask you on why you've dressed up and tell them that your team is playing and they should come visit you or watch you play and hopefully win. That's the whole dressing up thing. And another thing that is specifically to entertain people and to get people to watch the shows is the games or the plays. That's mid-time shows. When there were big football games, it was only I can't speak today. That was only at the mid-time shows. Then the Blazettes, that were our dance line club, they did a mid-show, and the orchestra, of course, as well, the marching band, for all the people watching the game, so they would enjoy it more and have some nice entertainment during the mid-time. And they were always pretty creative and involved some good dancing and juggling of swords and guns and stuff like that, and flag swinging. That was pretty nice. But I'm drifting off. I think that was it for the sports in the USA explained. If you have any questions or if I explained anything wrong, Same with the slang though. Send me an email at theforeignerpodcast@gmail.com and just ask me for more information. I'll deliver. And now let's have a hard crack and get to another topic. Now I want to talk about the role of music and podcasts in my exchange. First of all, for that I want to explain to you my walking habit. So everyone needs kind of me time at some part and don't want to be around people no more. And when I want that, I go walking. So I would usually just plop my earphones in, listen to music or a podcast, and go out to walk in the nature. We had a pond pretty nearby our house, so I would always walk in circles around that pond. And this would always like get my mind free and help me, to think about my life and whatever I wanted to think about. But I'll come to that later. So that's just to know up front. When I'll be talking about the role of music and podcasts to my exchange, I pretty much only listened to that when I was walking. So I'll also keep that in the back of your mind. So there were lots of impressions all the time that needed to be thought over. So that's just the thing you have to encounter when you are in exchange. Lots of new things and impressions that are completely new to you. So you need time to think about them and to process them. And music often helps to relax. So you can listen to your favorite kind of music and just chill out and let your brain process what just happened. And music will be so diverse that there will always be stuff for you that you can relate to. Because in whatever mood you are, there's likely some musician who has been in that mood before, and most likely they're in Spotify or on the internet. So you can find their music and listen to them and hopefully relate to them. And that's also a thing that helps, is having things or people to relate to. And sometimes you'll need that me time, and music can help. And for me, the walking also connects like the physical activity to that me time. It's pretty much the only physical activity I did. So at least I thought it was healthy, but I mean, walking in a circle is not that healthy, but let's not talk about that too much. But the walking thing, even though it's not that much of a like sportive activity, it would still set free endorphins in your body after you finished your walk. So you feel better and you feel like you've accomplished something, even though you just walk like a stupid man around a pond. But yeah, I mean, that's my way. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, like frequently, I do that in Germany as well. I have a route that takes almost up to 3 hours. And when I have time, which doesn't happen too often, but when I do, I would walk this circle, this big route. And it makes me feel better. Yeah. And then also being in the nature inspires me. And it did through my exchange as well. Walking through the nature, and there were lots of trees and grass and the pond, you could like see life happening, and you could practically see the difference from week to week or day to day. Like trees or scraps would grow or not grow, get smaller, I don't know. Once the city came and burnt down all the grass on the pond, so the pond wouldn't grow full of grass. Yeah, they burned it. That was pretty cool to see, because at first it was all like black coalish on the ground, and I saw them burning it actually. And then I walked by the end of the week, and the first green tips of new grass rose out of that burnt down matter. So that was pretty cool and pretty inspiring. And once I was walking, I think it was pretty in the morning, and there were 2 deer just standing on my way, like 15 meters, I don't know what that is in yards, before me, and would look at me, and I would look at them, and they would walk away from me slowly, and I would just stand still, and they would stop and still look at me, and then suddenly they just ran off and jumped into the next forest. So that was a pretty cool thing to experience, and that helped me a lot. And now let's get the curve to the podcasts. The way that podcasts helped me was because they make you think about other things if you have problems. So if you don't feel right about something, or if you feel like you have an issue and you can't get your mind off it, a podcast may help you, because you listen to that stuff, whatever those people in the podcast are talking about, and you may think about their ideas and what they just said, and you will get distracted. So distraction is one good effect. Then you will connect things that you hear to your own situation. If you hear more educational podcasts, you might apply that to your life. Like, I listen to sociology and philosophical podcasts, and I could understand aspects of my life as I learned about them being like just social behavior, and that was pretty cool. So I like that. What did I write down as well? Oh, here. Yeah. Oh God, what did I mean with that? Oh, I see. So, if you think about different things, that will help you to more easily take different positions on your own problems. So when you are fixated, is that a word? When you are thinking about one specific problem and you want to solve it, but you can't get it solved, then just being able to look out of your own brain and look at your problem from a different perspective, that may help a lot. And it helped me a lot when I had issues or when I had things that I wouldn't quite understand. It helped me to, first get distracted and then approach the problem from another angle. Angle, not an ankle. An angle. Oh God, English. I'm losing my English. It's so bad. But anyway, that's why I'm doing the podcast. Yeah, and oh my god, I can't read. Yeah, podcasts can get you in a status of like thinking. They can make you, I wouldn't want to say melancholic, but like they can invite you to think. And at first, if you wouldn't want to think about the problem, like if you wouldn't want to process it properly, a podcast may help to do that, and just by itself. So you don't have to listen to podcasts and be like, no, I'm gonna really think through the problem. But just by listening to a podcast, you'll see yourself more thinking about the podcaster's contents or what he says, how he says it, and that will just get you in a mood that is beneficial to thinking about your own problems. And of course, if there are podcasts like mine, where I talk about exchange student things and you're an exchange student walking around the pond wondering about your life, well, maybe you can relate and learn things from what I'm explaining right now. So that is a thing that helped me pretty much. That's the whole podcast thing. And I want to really quick get to another thing, which I already teased, the role of architecture, fine arts, and aesthetics for my exchange. Now that sounds pretty weird. And actually, I never really cared about arts or any of that before my exchange. But a thing that happens during your exchange is that you become much more observant. You look at your surroundings, you try to understand it, you digest your impressions, and you'll see details and think about them that others, or maybe yourself, wouldn't have seen like ever. And you'll start to understand certain things about these differences. And same will automatically happen to you for your understanding of art if you let it happen. So for me, I didn't really care or understand art before, like at all. But through doing theater and kind of being schooled to look in behind things and also being more observant, I start to at least get a little understanding for art. And you'll probably also experience that. If so, send me an email. If you think that's complete bullshit, send me an email as well. But I want to get back. Stop sending me emails now. Okay, sorry. You'll recognize differences and learn to appreciate them, which is also a thing that may help you understanding aesthetics. And I cared a lot about the architecture, especially in the US. Like, I always explained an American house, like you take a box, put lots of cubes in it, shake the box really tightly, and then see what comes out, how the blocks are laying. Like, that's American architecture for me. Because there are like slabs standing out of the house, and this window is like 2 inches inverted or inside the house, and there are lots of corners and slabs that don't make any sense. And that's American architecture to me. That's how I understood it, and it was really weird for me to come back to Germany and see like our German architecture, like a cube with a pyramid on it. That's a house now. So you see those differences, and I cared about them a lot. They were really important to me because that helped me to like differentiate between Germany and the US. And I'm not sure if you will experience it the same way, because I know other exchange students did it kind of, but not really. So maybe it was just me being my weird self, but maybe it's you as well. So if yes, then hey, we feel the same. And the thing about feelings is that aesthetics, they can make you feel happy when you think about them in the right mental state. Like, you see something pretty, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and it makes you happy. It gets you a little smile on your face and just makes your day a little better, which I really like. Just having something look pretty or nice or neat or, I don't know, cute, that can improve your life. So why not cherish it? And of course, same as in the podcast, it can get you into a thinking state of mind, into a thinking mood, and a thoughtful state of mind. So yeah, you are much more likely to think about stuff in a different way, or just think about stuff in general. And as I already did explain how I did that, you will connect architecture to your country or to your area of stay, and you will miss it a lot. Because this is a part of the experience and a part of what you will connect to the country. Like, when I see videos of, I don't know, I've been watching Vine compilations recently, and if there are people doing stuff on the streets and you see that typical cube American house, I'm like, oh, I want to go back, but I can't. And that's sad. But to no more be sad, here is the quote of the episode. And today, not tonight, it's by Earl Nightingale. He said, "We become what we think about." He was an American moderator and an inspirational speaker. And I really like this statement, because it shows you how important it is to think about your actions as you make life and as you live and as you go through your life. Because thinking is fundamental during your exchange. And you'll need to process and evaluate a lot of things, like I did when I was walking around a pond. And you want your year to be successful, so you'll have to think about it. If you just go through it blindfolded, not thinking about anything, it's not going to be that great of an experience. So thinking about your actions will make you a better human, and of course it will make you be a more successful exchange student. And now the item of the episode is a pair of earphones, because you'll need good earphones that are durable when you want to walk around a pond and listen to podcasts for your entire exchange every week. Or sometimes I did it on a daily basis, like during fall or spring. I would be walking all the time before my parents came home from work, and they would get angry at me because I would not want to go home and just keep walking around the pond and around the pond and around the pond. And they were home and I wasn't there, and I forgot the time while walking around my pond. But that's a different thing. So, ending this episode, I again would really love if you could help me grow this podcast, and if you could help me reach more people. So if you have friends that are going on an exchange, maybe you should send them a link to my podcast, so they might get, I don't know, what they can get inspired or educated or whatever from my podcast. Whatever helps them, it shall help them. And yeah, please just help me grow. I would really love that. So thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Foreigner Podcast. Thank you. Goodbye.